What if the real difference between being rich and being poor isn't luck, talent, or education, but mindset? In this story, you'll step into Robert Kiyosaki's world, where two fathers taught him opposite lessons about money. One believed in safety. The other believed in freedom. Only one was right. Robert Kiyosaki's childhood was shaped by two very different father figures, and two completely different philosophies of life. His poor dad, his biological father, was everything society admired: highly educated, disciplined, and respected. He believed deeply in the traditional system: go to school, get good grades, find a secure job, and work hard until retirement. He often said, "The love of money is the root of all evil," and he warned Robert to stay away from taking financial risks. For him, success meant stability. Yet, despite his intelligence and dedication, he constantly worried about bills, taxes, and the next paycheck. Then there was Rich Dad, the father of Robert's best friend. He had little formal education, but he possessed something far more powerful: financial intelligence. He was a businessman, an investor, and a thinker. He believed money was a tool, not a goal. His lesson was simple: don't work for money. Make money work for you. While poor dad saw money as something to earn and save, rich dad saw it as something to control and multiply. Poor dad wanted Robert to play it safe. Rich dad wanted him to play smart. At first, Robert was confused. Two fathers, two truths. Who was right? But over time, the results spoke for themselves. Poor dad's path led to job security, but also financial limitation. Rich dad's path led to freedom, not because he avoided work, but because he learned how to make money flow toward him instead of away from him. This contrast opened Robert's eyes to a truth most people never learn. Schools teach you how to earn money, not how to manage or grow it. Academic education may get you a job, but only financial education can help you achieve independence. From that moment, he started asking new questions. Why do some people work less but earn more? Why do others work hard their entire lives but never escape debt? What do the rich know that schools never teach? Rich Dad's voice became louder in his mind, not because he rejected poor dad, but because he realized that the world rewards financial understanding, not just effort. Core message: the poor and the middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. And that single shift in mindset can change everything. Robert Kiyosaki calls it the rat race, a life pattern that millions of people unknowingly follow. It begins early, often with good intentions. Children are told, go to school, study hard, and get a good job. They grow up believing that financial security comes from earning a stable salary. And so they do. They find jobs, work hard, and start earning. At first, it feels like progress. The first paycheck brings a sense of pride and independence. But soon after, bills appear. Rent, taxes, insurance, car payments, and suddenly, the paycheck is gone before the month ends. To solve that problem, people work harder, seek promotions, or switch to higher-paying jobs. Their income grows, but so do their expenses. They buy bigger houses, nicer cars, and newer gadgets. Society calls it success, but Kiyosaki calls it a trap. This is the rat race, running faster and faster, but never moving forward. Working harder only feeds the system, a system designed for others to benefit. Rich Dad explained it simply. The poor work for the rich. The middle class work for the government and the banks. The rich make systems that work for them. Every paycheck that passes through your hands tells a story: who you truly work for. When you get paid, the government takes its share first through taxes. The bank takes the next share through loans, mortgages, or credit cards. What remains, often small, is what you use to live on. And so, people keep working harder, thinking the answer is more income. But Rich Dad warned. A higher salary doesn't make you rich. It just makes you spend more. The key difference lies not in effort, but in understanding. Most people believe their home is an asset. Rich Dad disagreed. He said, an asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out. The house you live in takes money out every month. Mortgage, maintenance, property tax. Unless it earns for you, like a rental property, it's not an asset. Cars, gadgets, vacations, all of them are liabilities disguised as success. The rat race continues because people mistake income for wealth. They think more money will free them, but without financial knowledge, more money only deepens the trap. So how do you escape it? The first step is awareness. Understand that financial freedom doesn't come from a paycheck, it comes from assets that generate income even when you sleep. The second step is learning the rules of money. Schools teach us to memorize facts, but they never teach us how money moves. The rich study investments, cash flow, taxes, and leverage. They don't just earn, they own. The third step is action. Start small, but start. Buy a small investment, read a financial book, take a course, or start a side business. Every little step builds the mindset of independence. Rich Dad said it best. Don't just earn to survive, earn to invest. When you work for money, your effort has a limit. But when your money works for you, your growth has no limit. The rat race isn't escaped by speed, it's escaped by direction. Freedom doesn't come from a higher salary, it comes from understanding how to create systems that earn for you. And once you step outside that circle, you never look at money, or life, the same way again. At the center of Rich Dad Poor Dad lies one life-changing lesson: the difference between assets and liabilities. It sounds simple. Yet this single misunderstanding keeps millions of people trapped in financial struggle for their entire lives. Rich Dad said, "An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket." That one sentence changed everything for Robert Kiyosaki. Because, in reality, most people don't know what they truly own. They believe they're building wealth, when in fact, they're building debt. Let's break it down. When you buy a house and live in it, society calls it an asset. You feel proud, successful, and safe. But every month, that house quietly takes money away. Mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, maintenance. The truth. Unless it earns you income, your home is a liability. Now, take another example, a small apartment that you rent out. You may have to pay for repairs or taxes, but every month, it brings in steady income. That's an asset. It works for you, even when you're not working. The same goes for cars. A luxury car looks good, but it drains money, gas, maintenance, insurance, depreciation. Unless that car helps you earn money, like in a delivery or transport business, it's a liability disguised as success. Rich Dad explained it like this. The poor and middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. The rich buy real assets that grow and give back. Assets aren't just physical things. There are also invisible assets: knowledge, skills, relationships, and ideas. These are even more powerful because they multiply over time. A person who understands finance can turn small opportunities into wealth. A person who understands communication can build trust and influence, two forms of wealth that money can't buy directly. Every dollar you earn has two possible fates. It can become a slave that works for you, or a master that controls you. Poor Dad worked for money all his life. Rich Dad built systems so that money worked for him. So what do the rich actually buy? They buy assets, things that generate cash flow or value over time. Here are examples of assets. Rental properties that bring in rent every month. Stocks or businesses that pay dividends. Intellectual property, books, courses, or products that continue earning after being created. Skills that increase your ability to earn in the future. In contrast, liabilities are things that cost you money to maintain. Houses you live in. Cars that depreciate. Expensive clothes, gadgets, and luxury trips bought on credit. The key difference is not in what you buy, but why you buy it. The poor mindset says, "I deserve this now." The rich mindset says, "Let my assets pay for this later." Rich Dad had a golden rule. The rich buy time, not things. That means they focus on freeing themselves from financial pressure so they can use their time however they want, to learn, build, and live. For example, a rich person might wait 5 years, investing steadily into assets. When those assets start generating income, they can use that income to buy luxuries, guilt-free, debt-free. Meanwhile, someone with a poor mindset buys luxuries first, then works extra hours, takes loans, and spends years paying off that decision. The lesson is simple, but powerful. If you want to change your financial life, you must change what you buy. Stop buying things that make you look rich, and start buying things that make you become rich. Robert Kiyosaki summed it up perfectly. It's not how much money you make. It's how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Building assets isn't about greed. It's about freedom, the freedom to choose how to live, where to work, and when to stop. And that freedom begins the moment you stop spending like the poor, and start thinking like the rich. The greatest difference between the rich and the poor is not the size of their bank account, it's the strength of their mindset. Robert Kiyosaki learned early that money itself isn't the problem. The real problem is how people think about money. Poor Dad, his biological father, believed in safety and stability. He said, "I can't afford it." When he said those words, his brain stopped searching for answers. It accepted limitation. It settled for less. Rich Dad, on the other hand, refused to speak in limitations. He asked, "How can I afford it?" That single question changed everything. It forced his brain to think creatively, to find solutions instead of excuses. The difference between those two sentences is small in words but massive in impact. One ends the conversation. The other begins it. That's the essence of a rich mindset, not accepting circumstances as they are, but asking how to change them. The battle between fear and greed. Rich Dad explained that two emotions rule the world of money: fear and greed. Fear keeps people stuck. The fear of losing a job, the fear of failure, the fear of taking risks. These fears keep people working for others instead of building for themselves. They stay in jobs they dislike because the paycheck feels safe. They avoid investing because the unknown feels dangerous. They settle for less because fear whispers, "What if you lose everything?" But the irony is, by avoiding small risks, they take the biggest risk of all, spending a lifetime working for someone else's dream. Then comes greed. Greed makes people chase shiny things, new cars, bigger houses, luxury lifestyles. They confuse appearance with success. They buy things they don't need, with money they don't have, to impress people who don't care. Rich Dad said, "The moment emotion enters money, intelligence leaves." That's why true wealth builders are calm under pressure. They don't react, they respond. They know that emotions cloud judgment, while discipline brings clarity. Money doesn't make you rich, education does. Most people think the solution to financial problems is more money. But if you can't manage $1,000 wisely, you won't manage $100,000 wisely either. Financial freedom doesn't come from earning, it comes from understanding. Rich Dad told young Robert, "If you want to be rich, don't work for money. Work to learn. Learn how money flows. Learn how to make decisions under pressure. Learn how to control your emotions when everyone else is panicking." It's not about being fearless, it's about using fear as a teacher. The power of courage and discipline. Courage is more valuable than comfort. Rich Dad believed that every successful person has failed more than the average person has even tried. Kiyosaki learned that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the foundation of it. Each mistake brings a lesson. Each setback builds strength. Poor Dad avoided risk and stayed safe, yet ended up struggling with money. Rich Dad took risks, learned from them, and built systems that made him wealthy. The key was discipline. Discipline to save before spending. Discipline to learn before earning. Discipline to stay calm when others panic. The rich build habits that protect their wealth. The poor build habits that protect their comfort. Rich Dad's rule. The poor let fear stop them. The rich use fear to grow stronger. Fear will always exist, before you invest, before you speak up, before you take a leap. But wealth begins the moment you act despite fear. In that moment, you stop being a victim of your emotions and start being the master of your mind. Because success is not about money. It's about the ability to stay focused when fear screams, patient when greed tempts, and brave when everyone else hesitates. That's the true power of thought and emotion, and the reason why the rich think differently long before they ever become rich. Wealth doesn't happen overnight. It's not a stroke of luck or a lottery win, it's the result of habits repeated over years. Rich Dad often told Robert, "Success is built on small disciplines repeated daily, not on one lucky break." He believed that rich people don't work harder than everyone else, they simply think differently and act consistently. Here are the core habits that separate the rich from the rest. 1. Pay yourself first. Before paying rent, bills or debt, the rich pay themselves first. That doesn't mean spending on luxuries, it means saving or investing a portion of income the moment it arrives. Poor Dad would pay everyone else first and save what was left, which was usually nothing. Rich Dad reversed that. He said, "When you pay yourself first, you create pressure to think smarter. By saving or investing first, you're forced to find creative ways to handle the remaining expenses. This builds financial discipline, the muscle that grows true wealth." 2. Keep learning continuously. The rich never stop learning. They study money like a language. They read books on investing, real estate, psychology, and markets. They take courses, attend seminars, and learn from failure. Poor Dad focused on academic degrees, Rich Dad focused on financial education. Knowledge compounds just like interest. Every new skill, whether understanding taxes, negotiating deals, or reading financial statements, increases your value and confidence. Rich Dad's advice was clear. Work to learn, not just to earn. The more you know, the less you fear, and the more opportunities you see. 3. Build systems, not jobs. The poor work for money. The middle class work for security. The rich build systems that work for them. A system can be a business, an investment, a rental property, or even intellectual property. Anything that produces income without your constant effort. Rich Dad said, "If you stop working and money stops flowing, you don't own a system, you own a job." He taught Robert to focus on assets that produce cash flow, not just income from labor. The goal is freedom, not busyness. 4. Give back and circulate value. The rich understand a powerful law: value multiplies when it's shared. Generosity, whether through teaching, donating, or helping others grow, creates trust and opportunity. Rich Dad explained, "Money is like water. If you hoard it, it stagnates. If you let it flow, it refreshes everything around you, including you." True wealth isn't just measured in dollars, but in impact. The more you give, the more abundance flows your way. The habits of the rich aren't about luck or privilege, they're about awareness, discipline, and intention. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about having money. It's about mastering how money moves, through your hands, your habits, and your heart. In the final lesson of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki looks back on everything his two fathers taught him, and realizes that his rich dad's greatest gift was never money. It was mindset. Rich Dad didn't just teach him how to earn, he taught him how to see. To see opportunities where others see risks. To see lessons where others see losses. To see that true freedom begins when you stop chasing money and start mastering it. True wealth is about control, not quantity. Most people believe freedom means having millions in the bank. But Kiyosaki discovered something deeper. Freedom means control. Control over your time. Control over your choices. Control over your emotions when things go wrong. When your money works for you, through assets, systems, and investments, you gain that control. You can rest without guilt. You can work because you want to, not because you have to. That's the quiet confidence of financial independence. Money as a tool, not a master. Rich Dad always said, "Money is a tool. Use it to build freedom, not chains. For most people, money becomes a chain, a reason to stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, or lifestyles they can't afford. But for the rich in mindset, money is a servant, something that builds, supports, and multiplies their vision. Robert realized that money only reveals who you already are. If you are fearful, money amplifies your fear. If you are wise, money amplifies your impact. So the real challenge isn't just learning how to make money, it's learning how to manage yourself. Purpose over paycheck. Rich Dad never measured success by salary. He measured it by freedom of purpose. He said, "The poor work for money. The rich work for purpose." That purpose might be building something meaningful, creating opportunities for others, or simply living a life that inspires. Once you find your purpose, money follows naturally, because people are drawn to passion, value, and authenticity. The final question. The story ends where it began, with a choice. Robert had two fathers, two philosophies, two paths. One said, "Play it safe." The other said, "Play it smart." And now, the same question is passed to you. Which father will you listen to? Because your financial life isn't determined by your background, your job, or your degree, it's determined by your mindset. In the end, freedom isn't something you buy. It's something you build, with knowledge, courage, and consistent action.